Like, Disneyland. Like, no, because in part one.
History of the World Part 2 was hashtag Last Romanov.
History of the World Part 2 was a different take on history.
History of the World Part 2 could have been Part 7 or 4. Where's the chronology?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fallingtower's Watch the First podcast, the podcast in which we watch the first episode of a series so that you don't have to. Easy for me to say.
Can.
Yeah, you can. You don't have to, but you can. Today, you may have guessed, we are doing History of the World Part 2 on Hulu. Josh Sussman is here. OMG.
Hello, HELLO.
He's an actor. You've seen him a million times. Dr. Muhammad Noor is also here. He is also an actor.
Yeah, I pretend to do things.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and I guess I'm an actor too. Let's just make it a full house. But Josh is definitely the best actor of the three of us, without a doubt.
Definitely better than me.
You'll find out why in a moment. But today, of course, we're doing History of the World Part 2 on Hulu, Episode 1, entitled One, I guess, or I.
It's not pilot.
Yeah. So everybody, please make sure to like this video. Give us a 5-star rating if you're listening in. Leave some comments below on what you thought of this episode. Make sure you are subscribed. This is all very important stuff. Very, very important. It's like Dogecoin. No,
I think it's more important than Dogecoin.
Yeah, it retains value if you do it. So maybe it's different. Anyway,
hello
enough.
to those in the live chat. Hi.
Oh, there they are. You're right. There they are. What's up, War Dog? All right.
Hey, Dave Gregory.
Finally, Dave Gregory's back. Am I right? Where are we going to get this train back on track, Muhammad? Where do we start?
I think we need to have some predictaments where we guess what each other thought of the show.
Mm-hmm. Didn't mean to make it feel like there was an inquisition there. We should do that. Okay. We should just quote things from History of the World, Part 1. Okay. Yeah. Predictions. Muhammad, I predict. We've known each other for a while. Pretty well. I think you laughed enough times to be favorable on this. I think you're going to be, in the plus range, around the 7-ish range. Josh, I think you're a Mel Brooks fan, in fact. And I think you're going to give this a pretty high rating of an 8-ish something, right around there. But those are my predictions for the two of you. Mm-hmm. Muhammad, what do you predict?
I'm going to mirror your recommendations, Ryan. I think that, again, I think there were enough lines there that you laughed. I think maybe you didn't love the organization of it, but I still think you thought parts of it were funny. Josh, I think you enjoy humor even more. And yeah, like Ryan said, I could imagine you might be a Mel Brooks fan and probably watch the original movie, the History of the World Part 1. So yeah, I think a little bit higher still. So maybe again in the 8 range. So again, mirroring Ryan's predictions.
Okay. I don't want to be a mirror also, because that's just boring. But I would guess there's enough fun stuff to amuse anyone. But is that enough to get it in a favorable rating? So, but Muhammad, I'm going to put you at a 6.8 area.
Wow.
So, which is decently favorable.
Yeah.
And Ryan could be amused by silliness, but Ryan could also be annoyed by silliness. So Ryan is tougher. I want to put Ryan at a little lower, but also in the 6 range, maybe at a 6.0 is where I'm putting Ryan.
It's a pretty low 6. All right. So everybody at home, those are your predictions that we have given you. Now it's time to make your own predictions in the live chat or in the comments below. We've given you plenty of hints. And it seems like we're all predicting relatively favorable scores. Do you agree with us? Or do you want to go out on a limb? Everybody, make your predictions now. Do you think I liked it? Muhammad liked it? Josh liked it? Why or why not? How much or how little? Take your time. There's no rush. Make sure this is exactly how you feel. Muhammad is going to buy you a little bit of time while you're typing away by telling us all what this show is even like Italy, a boot.
Wouldn't it be funny if after all that, like each of us gives a score like a 2.5?
It might happen.
Anyway, it may happen. In this series sequel to the popular Mel Brooks movie, we get humorous and sometimes cringy takes on various historical figures and events, often by melding them with modern-day contexts and references. We see the U.S. Civil War with Lincoln denying Grant alcohol and having repeated height-related accidents, to the Princess Anastasia Romanov recording a makeup TikTok during the Bolshevik Revolution, to the Shakespeare writer room with fury over their Chipotle lunch delivery, to only France giving a good score for Hitler on Ice. Oof.
All right, everybody. Now you know what this show is even a boot. Finally, I know you were wondering. I know you were curious. What the heck? History of the World Part 2. What is this, a class? No, Hulu would never give us a class. Okay, where do we go after this? Please, everybody, finish up your predictions because it's about to get crazy.
Yeah.
Now it's time. Now it's time when we have our expectation, where we spend a little bit of time on what you expect and more time on what you get in. My favorite part.
Muhammad likes violence.
I like violence and chaos in general.
So we're just going to compare and contrast what we expected with what we got. Muhammad, before you watch this first episode of History of the World Part 2, entitled One or I, what did you expect, if anything?
It's a great question. When you texted me the title, I was like, is that the Mel Brooks movie? I mean, is this like a sequel to it? I thought, like, is it going to be another movie then? Because I have seen History of the World Part 1. It's been many, many years. I mean, the only scene I could remember off the top of my head from it was Moses holding the 15 commandments, saying, I have 15 commandments, and dropping one, it shatters, and I'm going, 10 commandments. That's pretty much the only scene I can actually remember for sure from it. But I tend to get a lot of the Mel Brooks movies mixed up. Like, wait, was that from Life of Brian? Or was that from History of the World Part? You know, so.
Life of Brian was Monty Python.
Oh yeah. I didn't know this existed as a series, even though I have Hulu. I somehow just never come across that it was out there. I don't know how long ago. I mean, I saw it's 2023, but I didn't see like when it actually dropped. But yeah, I mean, besides that, that was about as much as I knew.
By the way, everybody, this suggestion was made by one Michael Kenyon Rosenberg, everybody. If you'd like us to review a show, in the comments below, just type in WTF and the show that you'd like us to review. April is new. So anything that's new, a new show, a new series, that's it. Just any new show or series.
WTF, that new Kiefer Sutherland show with Rabbit in the title.
Oh yeah, I keep seeing commercials for that. Yeah.
I don't know what that is, but let us know where we can find it as well. So you would have done WTF History of the World Part 2 on Hulu. And then from there, we'd find it and review it. Maybe. What about you, Josh? What did you expect before you watched this first episode, if anything?
Well, I went into this watching Part 2 without having seen Part 1, which felt, well, yeah, big reveal, right? And so I was like, usually you don't watch a Part 2 without seeing a Part 1. Mel Brooks is very hit or miss for me. I think I really like Young Frankenstein. I recently watched, I think it was called High Anxiety, which parodied like the Hitchcock films. I thought that was really stupid. Not to use the stupid word, sorry. And so this one, so if this is Part 2, I was not expecting, I guess I was expecting chronology. I was thinking, okay, that's Part 1. And just from images or previews, I've seen things that look like they were thousands of years ago. So I know this is probably what I got, but I was thrown off at the beginning. What? Lincoln? Because I didn't know we were going to, jump around to other things, but I was expecting, I guess, just a comedic history of the world. And I was expecting maybe it to be pretty straight laced, but just silly.
Hmm.
But I figured it would stand on its own. There's no characters because I figured the characters in the movie in the first one, if that's part one, oh, we're just moving on in history. So I figured I'm going to be okay. I'm not going to be lost. It's not really a sequel, even though it's part two.
Well, that's a little surprising. I'll tell everybody now what I expected before I watched this first episode. I myself very much enjoyed History of the World Part 1 several times, and I quote it very often. Anybody that's watched the movie several times knows you say things like, it's good to be the king, people love it,
I
piss
always just thought
boy,
you were pissed.
you could say piss
You're
boy, you
quoting.
talk about the Inquisition, here we go, you could go on forever. Anyway, the point is, it's a great time, great movie. And Josh, obviously you didn't see the first one. You didn't have time. I mean, they put the sequel right after, within like 30 years after the first one, or 35 years. So anyway, I loved it. I also love Spaceballs, one of the best movies of all time. Mel Brooks is a comedic genius, and I thought this was going to be a movie. And when Michael told me, and I believe Darth mentioned that it was a series, not a movie, I was very pleased with this because that means we can actually review it. Great. So I expected this to be funny, although I will say I was a little concerned because I'm like, does a 130-year-old still have it, or whatever he is, Mel Brooks? What's going on? Or did he hire a bunch of writers, to kind of, I don't want to say ghost writers, but he's got a writer's room for it. And they're kind of just taking over the mantle, in which case it'll kind of be in a different voice because he had that genius style. Maybe they can't really duplicate it. So I was a little concerned and a little iffy on whether I'm even going to like this thing. But that's what I expected.
He looked really good. He's in the opening shot. I was impressed.
That's right.
I was for a 96-year-old. He's in amazing shape.
But now, here's the biggie. Everybody, make sure you finished making your predictions, by the way, because we're about to give everything away somewhat. Mohammed, what did you actually get upon this first viewing?
Well, y'all's descriptions were accurate. I mean, I did laugh many times. I did enjoy the fun juxtapositions of classic things with modern things. Like they seem to do the news thing a few too many times, but still, I laughed many times. A lot of the lines, it had many, many, many lines where I thought that something said was really funny. Sometimes cringy too. I mentioned that in the intro. I was also confused by, I can't remember if this was Josh that said this, the jumping around in time. That was a little bit funny because I just sort of assumed it would be going in order, but it would go forward and back and then back to the previous one. Wait, what's happening here? So that was a little bit funny. Something I didn't really like in it that much was the lack of an underlying overall plot, which I know, obviously the movie didn't really have one. There wasn't something where it didn't feel to me like there was a compelling reason to continue watching. It's kind of like you just watch it for a little while. Honestly, what it felt to me like it would have been better if it was basically a series of TikToks where you could just scroll like, oh, I want to watch this one. Okay. Yeah, that one I'm not interested in. Okay, this one. And then it actually would work really well because it was all these little short, about 3-minute-ish little skits of things happening. So I felt like that, or what's the other one? The Facebook Reels. I felt like that format would actually work better than 8 30-minute episodes. That felt to me like an odd way of showing this. That would have been much worse as like a 4-hour show. That would have been exhausting.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but I felt like Reels, it would have been quite good. I actually would have really enjoyed it. Maybe that's what will eventually happen to. Maybe 10 years from now, that's where it'll be. It'll be a series.
Well, everything now, like with Jim, all the late shows or the Tonight Show, they take the best moments and they just put them on the next day on social media in a highlight reel. Highlight whatever. So I'm sure they'll do that with the best moments here, and they'll cut it down from 28 minutes and just show you a bunch of great 1-minute clips.
Exactly. Exactly. I
Which
think that'll
begs the
honestly be better.
question. Which begs the question, Josh. What did you actually get upon viewing this first episode?
So when we started off, I was like, okay, that's nice, because I didn't know if Mel Brooks was going to be involved, and getting the introduction with him. I was excited. Oh, he's involved in this. That seems cool. He's our narrator. But that way, we're starting off in the Civil War, and then I wondered. And I obviously, so I didn't see the movie. Did the movie go all the way up to the Civil War? But then I was not. I don't know if they did this in the movie. I wasn't prepared for like the news footage stuff, and I think I wanted something like like more felt accurate. And then when they asked like, if you win the war, you're going to go to Disneyland, and I'm thinking, well, Disneyland didn't open until 1955. So if they ever get to the history of the creation of Disney, like they're really, I feel like this is not
Setting themselves up for
responsible.
failure.
So, like, I was just imagining, what if in a History of the World Part 3, they, Disneyland, like, no, because in Part 2, Episode 1, they talk about Disneyland, and I was like, oh, so that kind of bothered me. But by the end of it, I did get used to the news stuff, and then having the makeup tutorial. So, like, all right, I just wasn't prepared for that. I was not really into the Civil War stuff. I didn't really like that scene. And I was like, is this whole episode? So I knew nothing about it. So I was relieved when, like, 4 minutes later, okay, we're 400 or 1400 learning at the Kama Sutra, which I really liked. And I think that was my favorite segment. And oh boy, did it make me want soup. Um, and so many different great positions to eat soup in. Um, and then I felt like I was watching an SNL type show, because I was like, oh, there's a bunch of skits that are, I guess, higher production value than an SNL skit that seem to be 4 minutes ish. And then I guess and then with the cave girls, and they had a modern day lighter. Like, oh, I'm irritated by that, but I could get over that, because now that I've learned to expect that, if I were to ever look at more, which I would know what to expect. But it was I got a mixed bag.
Sounds like it.
I got a non-chronological. I was thinking, if it's something called History of the World Part 2, I'm expecting to go chronologically and learn, kind of like the Carousel of Progress, where you are seeing progress and you're seeing mankind advance. Didn't get that.
Well, that's all very interesting. Sounds like you got a lot of things in 30 minutes. I'll tell you guys what I got. What I got was, I did get a little discombobulated, because when it started off and it said, whatever it was, the Civil War, my first thought was, oh, I get it. This first episode will be about the Civil War. So I start feverishly, trying to type down the names and go, okay, so this guy's, because I'm thinking this is really important. I need to know all of these characters that are being introduced. And I'm like, okay, I think I got what's the kid's name? And then oops, they switched to something else. And I go, oh, I see. So now I double get it. It's not the whole episode's going to be about this. It's going to be about multiple things in one episode. And then I started thinking, I hope and I expect that these will pick back up in subsequent episodes. Because otherwise, if they're just doing 4-minute skits forever, and we're going to like run out of give a shit. But then it seems like that was validated, because later on, towards the end of the episode, they gave us the wink and the nod of, yes, we will be revisiting these characters, because they did revisit one of the storylines at the end of the episode, which I think was a very smart move, because they kind of saved it by saying, hey, don't worry, guys. We are going to revisit all these. We are going to come back to all of these, or maybe some of them. But that was my big concern and my big wish towards the middle of the episode. And it seems like they cleared that up in a very good way. So overall, I think this show has a ton of potential. I think initially it was a little confusing for me. But I think it's going to work, and I think it's going to do well, especially if at the final episode basically closes up all of the storylines. So we're like following all of these storylines, concurrently, and then it closes out. At least that's what I think. But Josh, you kind of went ahead on us and gave us a very good idea, or at least gave me a fun idea, which was your favorite storyline? And you said it was definitely the Kama Supra, right?
Yes, because I love soup. And look,
why.
They had fun activities in it also. And I think I was just so relieved to get away from the Civil War, which and I think also the soup, that was the most grounded, even though it's absurd, they didn't have modern technology in it. And it felt like if they had cameras back then, we could have been a fly on the wall in history. So that actually, I think, is what I was hoping for most, a comedic thing of history that could have actually happened, where the other ones just had too many modern day, winks. So in the movie, was it not like this? Was it just a common through line?
In the movie was like this, and I believe it had two big, stories, like 30-minute stories. That was the Roman Empire, with some great things like the Ethiopian, a Shim Sham with Gregory Hines. B. Arthur was in it. She was fantastic. Gregory Hines was hysterical. And the French Revolution. Those were kind of like the two big ones. And then they had a couple other small ones like the Cavemen. There was the Spanish Inquisition, which was basically just like a 5-minute song. And then at the end, I think it's something like Pigs in Space or something like that. They may have had a couple other things in there, but that was basically it. Yeah, I think. I could be wrong. I haven't seen it in very long, but so it's kind of similar in that regard, but it's certainly a slightly different formula. But Muhammad, which was your favorite of the storylines?
Before I answer that, I'm going to come back to your earlier point. I think if they do continue, the most likely ones they continue would be the Civil War, because they did kind of just leave that one hanging.
They didn't exactly.
And the Russian Revolution, the people who were moving to the city. I felt like most of the rest they probably aren't. Like I can't imagine them coming back to the cave people or the Hitler on Ice. It would be like, why would you come back?
Or Shakespeare's writing room.
Yeah, that one was my favorite. That you just said right there. I love the Shakespeare's writing room thing, and I loved when he threw that thing and knocked over that guy, and he's like, "Alas, poor Yorick."
Yeah, you are violent. I forgot.
There are a lot of really fun one-liners in that one. I really
like
enjoyed
that one also.
Yeah.
I think the one that I enjoyed the most, I want to say the soup, because the soup was every single one was a wink and a nod. Every single one was pushing, edgy. Every single one was like a play on words or a euphemism. I mean, it was really good and really smart and really gross. And that's my kind of humor. And the smart's not even that important. But I think the one that actually, I tried to actually writing down all of the soup ones. Too many notes. This thing just gave us
a lot. Yeah.
It was just too much. I feel like they just gave us a little too much. If they cut out like one of those storylines and made the others a little bit longer to get more comfortable with them, that may have been better. But I will say the one that actually gave me the biggest reaction was just a really quick one when Rasputin does the Jack Rasp, and it was like a play on Jackass, because it did the bow, 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 and I recognized it right away. I was like, wait, is that Jackass? And he's like, this is getting stabbed or whatever. And then it had all of the Jackass guys. Spoiler, there's the guy Chris, I think something, who's like the exact same laugh. I didn't even know I knew the guy's laugh until he did the laugh. I was like, whoa, feels like it was 20 years ago all over again. And then he's wearing nothing and his butt showing. There's Wee Man. I was just like, what a blast from the past. It should be called History of Ryan being a dummy and watching dumb shows, That was just beautiful. I thought that was just beautiful. So that actually gave me the best and biggest reaction. I'm going to go back and watch that again. Just that 1 minute.
Yeah, you do.
It'll be a TikTok later. You'll see it.
But I don't like the leek soup. The leek soup was my least appealing soup, just as a soup lover.
Yeah, that was definitely unappealing.
Why? Chris Pontius. I think his name is Chris Pontius.
There were a lot of recognizable people in here. Like everyone was like a who's who Hollywood comedic.
I thought Grant at first was Chris Pratt, but then I don't think it was him actually. When I showed him
Yeah.
closer, I'm like, oh no, that's not.
I thought the same thing. I was like, is that? No. But yeah, there are a lot of recognizable people, which were great. Actually, at first in the Shakespeare one, I thought the one guy was Shakespeare, but then when the fat guy walked in, I was like, oh, that's the Shakespeare guy.
Josh Gad.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, Josh Gad played Shakespeare.
I know Joe Gatt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I try to know my other Joshes.
Good thinking.
Josh Club.
Yeah.
In like 2014, there was some online publication that had a list of the 17 hottest Joshes. And I think, or maybe it was 16, and I was 16.
Awesome.
So I was excited about that. I felt like I made it.
There's a lot of Joshes in the world, so that's a big honor.
I was the bottom one, but just to be on the list.
Bottom one of 16,
out of a million.
Exactly.
Yeah. And they had some Josh Pecks, some Josh Gads, some Josh Hartnetts, some
Josh
Holloway.
Hartnett. That's this guy's. Right. He's very.
Oh.
I think that's Josh Hartnett.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, well, look. Do you guys have any things that what did you like the most? Was not just the scene, but was there a moment or a line that you enjoyed the most out of all of this?
Go ahead.
Oh, I guess the Fiddler on the Roof type music. I mean, I don't know if it's member berries, but just having familiar music and a familiar tune, a tradition. I think it sends you good positive feelings from having heard the song before. So it sounded nice. But I don't really actually have a line that comes to mind, but I'll be honest, I'm so tired right now. I actually just got off of an airplane and I just watched it after not sleeping. I just watched it like right before doing this.
Wow.
So it's fresh in my mind, but it's also not fresh.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't processed it all the way yet.
Did you have a favorite moment, and are you tired?
I'm not that tired.
Okay.
But my favorite moment was Anastasia coming back to her camera after seeing the Romanovs were gone and saying like hashtag last Romanov, war and peace, guys. Bye. Remember to like and subscribe.
Mm-hmm. I'm dead right now because my family is literally dead.
Yeah. That was very funny. I really enjoyed that part.
Yeah, I don't know what my favorite, I guess it must have been just that jackass thing. I could call that a moment because it was so short. It might have been just when the guy was laughing, that Chris Pontius guy was laughing, because I didn't realize how recognizable and iconic his laugh was until he did it. And I immediately was like, oh, that's the guy that laughs all the time. I like him. I didn't even know I liked him. But it was just a nice, it was so cool. But there was just so much packed into this, which is usually a good thing, but I feel like this time it was a slight negative because it almost showed like they didn't have the confidence in each one of the storylines to keep our attention, where they just had to move. Like instead of whatever it was, 6 or 7 things, they could have just done 4 or 5 and just given us a little bit more. I think I would have liked that a bit more. But Josh
reminds me of another Hulu show, which I don't know if you reviewed, Animaniacs, where there's like 4 or 5 different like skits in each episode, and some of them are great, and some of them it's like, I want to get back to the other one. I want to get back to the Pinky and the Brain one, but there's a lot of original, unique skits and songs. Some are really good, and some are
Well, WTF Animaniacs, everybody. Maybe we'll do that one, but that is the perfect segue. Josh, let's talk about you. You also do voiceover, just like whoever does the Animaniacs. Am I right?
That's correct. And yeah, I was on a lot of Fish Hooks on Disney Channel, Star vs. the Forces of Evil, Glitch Techs on Netflix, it's a couple other ones. And I just last week started on a new animated show. My voice is in it, so hopefully you'll watch the first of that. Which I was very excited. I know it takes a while to animate it. I do the voice first, so it could be a year away.
So you can't tell us what it is yet?
I don't think I'm allowed to.
Okay, fair enough.
I think I don't even know if it's based on a video game. I guess that's safe to say.
Oh, Super Mario it came out recently.
Oh, I wish it was. That would be cool. But yeah, so hopefully maybe in future episodes, it'll be announced. But I think, yeah. But I was just excited because as an actor, after every time you do a job, you're unemployed.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, they want me. I get to do it. And so that's really cool. And so,
Congratulations.
but then I feel lame when I say, oh, but I'm not allowed to say what it is.
That's not lame. That makes you sound cool. If you go,
Oh,
well, I know, but you guys don't, and you're not gonna know. I'll let you know sometime later. It actually makes you seem a lot cooler that way than if you just blurt it out, I think.
earlier in this episode, I was feeling self-conscious because Ryan, I interrupted you when you were talking about how you might quote lines, and you were talking about from History of the World Part One. You said, "I'm the king," and I interrupted. I don't know if you heard it. I said, "I always just thought you were pompous," but if that can, I, I never thought you were pompous. That was just I wanted to explain a joke. Because
Thank you.
if I never saw the movie, I just hear Ryan like, "I'm the king, I'm the
He
king."
says, actually, he says it's good to be the king.
It's good to be the
which
king.
is maybe even more pompous. So yeah.
And so my joke, which I don't know if it landed or you even heard it, but I just wanted to explain, which probably ruins that moment.
I don't know if I did hear it, but thank you for explaining
Yeah,
because that would have
and then I
really
was like,
devastated
"Oh,
me.
I interrupted." Yeah, and if you ever rewatch this, you'll notice. And did you in the comments below notice that part? What were you thinking? But yeah, then I was like, I shouldn't interrupt Ryan. He's speaking. I tried to be funny.
And you were.
You are funny.
Do you have any other voiceover gigs on the horizon or hopes or wishes?
Well, so Glitch Tex is the first two seasons are out, and we started recording the third season, but it hasn't been announced if they're going to do it. And I know there's people online who say, "Oh, we hope you come." You know, who knows? The show could be dead or it could come back, but I don't. I don't know. I don't know if enough people watched it, but that would be fun because we've recorded for I think 9 episodes and they have the animatics. So, but other than that, no, nothing else really.
If you
Well,
could
congratulations
voice,
on that, though.
yeah,
Sorry,
if you could
Mohammed.
voice for some show that's continuing and have a character in it, which show would you pick?
Oh, I I got to be part of the Simpsons universe, which was really cool.
That's
Wow.
huge.
And when the Simpsons movie came out, they had this whole campaign where you could Simpsonize yourself, and I got turned into Krusty the Clown in this. I'll send it to you. I'll show it to you.
Please.
But that would be cool. But no, I'm a huge Disney fan. I'd love to do a voice in like a Disney or like Pixar movie. Like that would really honestly be a dream come true. I grew up watching those movies.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not really an ongoing show, but to have, I do love when I get to work for Disney. So just any Disney show. And anything with the Muppets. My dream job is still to work with the Muppets. That's actually why I came out to Hollywood to to meet the Muppets.
Really?
I just shared a story on my Instagram the other day where I was answering a question, how did you get into acting?
Oh, yeah.
And I say, well, all began on my 5th birthday party. My mom asked me who I wanted to invite. And I was naming different kids from my kindergarten class or pre-K class. And I was like, and then I want to invite the Muppets. My mom explained to me, Josh, you can't invite the Muppets. They live in the TV. And from that moment, I was like, I need to figure out how to get into the TV. I need to get into that screen. So I was like, oh, I would become an actor. So I did that, but I have not worked with the Muppets yet. And they have a new show that's coming out in May, Muppet Mayhem. So WTF Muppet Mayhem.
WTF Muppet Mayhem. And hopefully Josh will be cast in there, not as one of the Muppets, but one of the voices for sure. I was actually looking up to see
human.
Michael and I were also Simpsonized. I was trying to find it on our Facebook page. Can't find it. I think it's on our MySpace Fallingtower page, if you can believe that. So everybody go check out myspace.com. I don't know, /Fallingtower. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Who knows? But we've got to move on to a big momentous occasion. Mohammed's ready for it. He knows it's the Terrible Twos, everybody.
I'm line on the bottom.
It's the final two questions of the show, the two most important questions of the show. Question number 1, Dr. Mohammed Noor. On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this first episode of Hulu's original series, History of the World, Part 2?
So let me be clear about my scoring here. My scoring is reflecting how much I personally liked it, not necessarily what my overall impression of its quality.
Ouch, sounds bad.
So, yeah. But Josh was incredibly close, 6.6. I think Josh said 6.8, so incredibly close. Good job.
I said
you were
7.
You were close too, Ryan. I think you said 7, so you're still very close too. You're
Not
rounding
as close
up.
as
That's
me, Ryan.
That's true. Okay.
But don't get cocky out. It feels good to be the king.
Well
What
done.
about you, Josh Sussman from Glee and a bunch of other cool things?
Wizards of Waverly Place.
Somewhere in the 6 range. I was originally considering maybe being in the high 5s, but I'm gonna go with like a 6.3. Yeah. What do you think about that?
I think it's pretty high considering you're not that big of a Mel Brooks fan. Yeah. Because I feel like I'll tell all y'all what I would give it. And I think it may slightly be skewed for my love for Mel Brooks. It makes me root for him. It makes me say, all right, I'm turning this on expecting and wanting and hoping and wishing to like this. So I'm giving it, very rose-colored glasses. Overall, I'm going to give it a 7.2 because I think
pretty close.
Yeah, especially because of the ending when they did verify my hopes, which is that they're going to continue these storylines, or at least some of them. Because, like this, for example, like we mentioned, the Civil War one. If they just ended it right there, I mean, that's just a scene. That's not even. That's just a scene. It is a scene, but it's not a standalone scene. It's
a weird ending.
Like the Hitler on Ice one can be a standalone scene because it's just where else are you going to take it? Maybe you could take it further if you want, but it's not necessary. The others were necessary. They were like introductory scenes. So I'm very happy that they made that decision. I do think it gave us a little too much, a little too fast. Maybe they think they are doing TikTok videos, like you guys said. But overall, it was funny. It was clever. It was nostalgic, and it made me happy as a Mel Brooks fan and a History of the World fan. 7.2, and I think that this show will get better once you watch the next few episodes. You'll recognize the same characters that you were introduced to, and I think it'll get better as time progresses. But here's the bigger question.
How far do you think it'll take us? Like, do you think it'll go even into the 1990s? I mean,
no, I think it's going to go all over the place.
3?
I think it's just going to go wherever the comedy takes them. It's like kind of like SNL you were mentioning. But Mohammed, question number 2 is the tough one. For the purposes of this podcast, we all had to watch the first episode of History of the World Part 2. But now that the podcast is over and we're free to move about the internet, would you, of your own volition, watch the second episode?
I have to give a lot of qualifiers on the answer to this one. If somebody were to come over to my house and say, hey, let's sit down and watch this together, and they were all into it, yeah, I would in that sense. On my own, I think I only would if it came up as in the context of actual like Facebook Reels or something like that. That way I could pick and choose the ones I actually want to watch. Like I have no interest whatsoever in the weird cave women fire thing. That was just weird. I would love to just scroll past that. As a series sitting on Hulu, I probably would because and that's I assume the way you have to answer the question, because there were some that I liked, some that I really didn't like, and I don't know that I want to go through all the ones that I'm not crazy about to see the few that I'm going to like. So probably not.
Wow. What about you, Josh?
I really do like the idea if it was like on TikTok, and I know this is sort of attention span where you could kind of pick and choose, but I would have it on, I guess, in the background, and it's like, oh, I'm interested in that one. I'm going to come pay attention. Oh, I don't think I'm interested in that. I'm, be doing other things or doing work. And yeah, the cave women, I would have really wanted to see how fire was invented. And it just disappointed. But I would look at more episodes. I would. I'm in no rush, but I know if I did, I'd be amused. There'd be things to be amused by. And I like being amused.
Thank goodness. Well, that's good because I too am a yes. I'm a yes. Initially, I was going to be a yes only out of curiosity to know if they revisit those things. I was thinking I'm going to need to watch the second episode, if nothing else, just to see if they're going to revisit these things as they should. But since they kind of closed the book on that and confirmed it, then now it's a yes, less out of curiosity and more just out of saying, all right, well, let's kind of see how this goes. And I think it is going to get better. And I'm still curious about the formula. Are they going to revisit all of them? Some, one, or maybe none. Maybe I'm wrong here, but it's an interesting formula, and I think it's going to get better. That's what I think. But it's a yes from me. Congratulations, Mel Brooks and team. You get 2 out of 3 yeses, and one that would have been a yes with all of these qualifiers. But it's time to move on, everybody. And we want to make sure that you like and subscribe. Give this a 5-star rating. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Tell us, do you love this series? If so, how much or how little? Do you love the movie or other Mel Brooks movies? I know everybody's saying, what about Blazing Saddles? What about Blazing Saddles? We'll have to talk about that on the next episode, whether we've seen it or not. I bet these guys haven't.
I watched it for the first time after Gene Wilder died. I went to a double feature of Willy Wonka and Blazing Saddles.
Big win.
For me, it didn't age. I mean, I didn't have, if I saw it when it first came out, but I don't know if it just in today's climate or it just, what? You can't do that. Like I wasn't for me.
That could be said of every Mel Brooks movie. Be careful about revisiting those. But you'll find out if I've seen Blazing Saddles on another episode. We'll have to tease that one for next time. So what I'm trying to say is this podcast is not going to age well.
This podcast is in the present day of the world, part now.
This podcast was History of the World, part 2, part 1.
Ah, gorgeous. So everybody, please give us your suggestions in the comments below. And remember what Mr. Michael Kenyon Rosenberg always likes to say.
Don't forget to be an organ donor, and don't forget to watch the first of things.
All right, freeze frame like you're in the Shakespeare writer's room.
That shitty smile and pretend